So he decides he's going to go guns blazing. Might as well, right? Because he's going to lose his knight. And look at this, man. I got 2 passed pawns, and they're just rolling down the board. He takes on h6. I just played, and like I just played an insane game. It was round 2 of the Frederick Showdown. I won my first round, hoping to win the whole tournament. It was a 4-round event, game in 30, increment 5. That being said, let's hop right into it. I'm playing someone who's about 300 points lower rated than me, so I'm hoping to win this game as well, of course. So I play the Caracon, and he plays the advanced variation. So white has more space, but I'm going to strike back in the center, and there's 2 main moves, bishop f5 and c5. I decide to play c5. So a bit unprincipled in the sense that I'm moving the same pawn twice in the first 3 moves, but it's an opening that I have a decent amount of experience in, and I know how to play. But I would say, like, if you haven't looked at it that much, you kind of need to know what you're doing, or else black can get into some trouble. My opponent played bishop e5 check, which is already a very uncommon move because I just played bishop d7. Much more common moves would be c3 or knight f3. Yeah, I've even seen bishop e3. All of those moves are more common. Also, of course, d takes c5. Just saying, hey, you gave me that's a free pawn, I'll take it. And then black will try to win it back. But now, like, this bishop sucks. Those are all more common moves than what my opponent did was bishop e5 check. And now I play bishop d7, and he trades. So that's already a huge commitment. Like, usually this light square bishop is black's worst piece, and this light square bishop for white is one of white's best pieces. So to see him already trading it, it feels like black doesn't have any issues. And, well, that being said, I have a choice on what to play. Do I play queen takes d7 or knight takes d7? It's already a huge moment. I think I chose wrong. I played queen takes d7, but I don't think that's nearly as good because let's say play continue like normal. He could play c3. I could play knight c3, knight c6, and or e6 either way. And I have the knight f3, knight c6, castles, knight e7, and I'm going to go knight e5. And if he plays g4 to stop, knight f5, then I'll go knight g6. And if he just develops like normal, I'm going to go knight f5 and bishop e7, and life is going to be good. But, like, I think this is the better way to play, to have a knight on c6 and knight on f5. But I ended up deciding to take on d7, which is with the knight, which is not bad, but I think there are better ways to play. So my opponent played c3, solidifying his center, winning connect 4, and I played e6. Now both my knight and my bishop see the c5 pawn, and I can develop my knight to c6. And that's what I actually do. So that was the idea with me putting my knight on d7, was that I know the queen often belongs on d8 and go to b6 or c7. Like, I didn't think it was as good on d7, and I thought that I could put my 2 knights on d7 and c6 like this, and it would be good. But in hindsight, I really do think a setup like this is much better. And we have a lot more pressure on d4, and I can more easily reroute my queen to c7 and b6 compared to when my knight is on d7. It's way harder to reroute this knight to a better square. That was my idea. Well, that's my thought process now. So ultimately, I feel like I took with the wrong piece. I took with the knight when I think I should have taken with the queen. My opponent plays a3, and I just played bishop e3 or bishop e7. Oh my gosh. A3. I'm not really sure what that does. I think my opponent didn't want to commit his bishop and knight anywhere. He didn't want to play knight d2, knight bd2 because he didn't want to block in his bishop, I guess. That's my guess. Because a3 is a waiting move, but sometimes black does want to expand with b4. It certainly isn't bad, but it definitely isn't developing your pieces. But at this point, like, black already has no issues. Like, the position is just equal, if not slightly better for black in this position. That's my guess, at least. This is a no engine recap until the very end of the video. So we'll review it with an engine at the end, and we'll see where my gaps are with how the engine thinks, and hopefully we'll all learn something there. So I play bishop b7. He plays h3. So very passive. You know, he just moved his flank pawns, both of them. But I can't really punish it. Another thing to note, like, on that point, he is sort of ahead of development here, right? Like, he already castled, but the position is super closed. We have not traded a single pawn. So even though he's already castled, he can't take advantage of the fact that my king is in the center. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So you know, I'm not castled. He can't take advantage of it. He plays a3 and h3. I can't take advantage of it. The position is very closed. Anyways, I castle. He goes bishop e3, and I just go rook c8. So at this point, after rook c8, I still had maybe about 26 minutes, 27 minutes, something like that, and so did he. So we've been both playing pretty fast here. Rook c8 is pretty natural move. I'm just moving my rook to a file that typically opens up. 99 times out of 100, the C file opens up in the Caracal. That's just like, and in this case, you can see the vision. The C file is most likely going to open up, so it makes sense to put a rook there. And my opponent plays b4, forcing me to make a decision. If he took my c5 pawn, that means I could probably honestly just take the e5 pawn like this, or I could take the c5 pawn and then try to win the e5 pawn later. Both are valid. And he definitely does not want to take himself. So he plays b4 because he wants me to make a decision. Alternatively, I think he could have played knight d2, in which case I could consider to take, because now his knight can't go to c3. But instead of that, he plays b4 with the idea that after we trade, he wants to go knight c3. The knight a lot of times belongs on c3 and is worse on d2. In this case, I actually think the knight on d2 is better than the knight on c3, as we'll see in the game. I play b5. Already is kind of a huge choice on how to develop, because I've made all the easy moves, right? Like, I developed my pieces, I castled, made all the easy moves. Now what? You know, like, that's always the next question. Like, okay, it's the middle game. Now what? And when you can't improve your pieces, that's when oftentimes you should think about pawn breaks, right? There's like 3 main things I think about, which is, you know, tactics and piece activity. Those are separate. And then pawn play. So pieces, pawn play, and tactics. I think that can get you pretty far. That's like so much of chess right there. Anyways, so right now I don't have any good pawn breaks. Maybe f6. But f6 is a huge decision, which can lead to weaknesses for both sides. Like, if I do play f6, it might genuinely be the best move, because he hasn't developed his last piece, and black is more poised to strike in the center than white is. Well, white can't even do any pawn breaks right now. Pawn breaks just mean a trade. So I feel like just now, like, just me thinking out loud, looking at the position, like, f6 might genuinely be the best move. If white takes, black could probably take with the bishop here, x-ray to the rook, and maybe black's gonna play e5, like knight c3, and I guess e5 is not a consideration because this d5 pawn is weak. So maybe this isn't good, but I'm not super sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a good transformation of the position or not. I would say, like, right now, black has really good control of the e5 square, so it feels like the position isn't worse for black. But at the same time, how do I improve my pieces? I don't really see a good way for black to improve. And they can't really get an e5 in because the knight on c3 is really good. So, okay. So maybe f6 isn't the best. Anyways, I decide to play more thematically on the queen side. So my pawn chain is targeting the queen side, and my pieces are on the queen side. And so conceptually, you usually want to play on the side that you're stronger on. And in this case, it feels like black is a bit stronger on the queen side here, because I have more pieces there. So I play b5 with the idea that that after knight c3, I'm gonna go a6, and it's gonna be really tough for him to play a4 and try to break apart this pawn structure. Like if all these pawns like were wiped off the board, then this is like it's gonna be very drawish with only pawns on this side of the board. Like it's gonna be a lot more drawish. But with the fact that these pawns are still on the board, I can target these pawns, and I want to make it hard for him to play. And another idea is I'm just gonna put a knight on c4, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really do think b5 was a good move. I'm not sure about any alternatives, because as black, you really want more space. Like, I am developed nicely, I guess, but I have less space, and I have to figure out how to improve this knight. I mean, honestly, that was the main point for me. Like, if I could teleport this knight to f5, and then put a queen on b6, maybe, and then I could play like a5. Like if my knight on f was on f5, my queen on b6, then I could play a5, and I think black's doing really well, because I just gave myself like 2 moves. I put 2 of my pieces on 2 better squares, of course. So I want to figure out a way to improve my pieces. Is my point. And I thought the best way to do that was b5 and a6, and I'm not sure if he had to go queen d2. Not that it's bad. I thought he might go queen d3, with the idea maybe sometimes studying h7. Like for example, if I did go queen b6, maybe I would consider. Okay, I guess he can never get g5 in, because I would take, and I lost my dark squared bishop, but I win this pawn. So I guess he never really threatens knight g5 and force me to give up my bishop. But that's one thing I was thinking about. I thought queen e3 made more sense, but maybe that doesn't really change anything. Instead, he goes queen e2, I go knight b6, and I'm simply just trying to improve my piece. And look at how he doesn't really have that much play. Like he can't go a5 here. Even here, he couldn't go a5 or a4. I mean, because this pawn is hanging. Sorry, the pawn is hanging, and after the pawn is hanging, the knight's hanging. Wait, that's a horrible way to phrase it. The pawn is hanging with an additional threat on the knight, I guess I should say. So he can't even play a4. So he plays queen d2, I have knight b6, and now he still can't play a4, because now this b4 pawn is still weak after I take. Oh, I don't have to take. Like if he plays a4, most likely I might just take on b4 with the bishop, and the knight's pinned. Although maybe it's okay either way. I don't know. But he plays rook fc1, I play knight c4, and he plays queen e2. So I improved my knight. I literally these last 4 moves, my knight went like this, and he improved his position some too, but it's not. So the position is probably roughly equal here. But I think my moves are much easier. I play queen b6, putting more pressure on this pawn. If he did a move like knight d2, I was thinking about this. I thought I might have some tactics, like knight takes e5, and after pawn takes e4 or d4, I mean, and that's just a fork. And if he takes, then I take, attacking his queen, and I don't have this knight b3 fork because of knight guards, but this position looks pretty good for me. Maybe not, because yeah, the knight does get pinned to the queen. That looks kind of annoying. Maybe I just go rook b8. And I'm not up any material, so maybe this position is just fine for him. Maybe it's even good. Maybe I even shouldn't even take with the knight. Maybe I should take with the queen. And now it's going to be hard for him to defend the c5 pawn, except he can defend it very easily. So maybe, I don't know. I thought this position was better for me, but I'm not sure if I would have played it or not. I would have spent time calculating it. Instead, he plays a sort of ridiculous move, knight d1. And I was like, what? Like knight d1 is a kind of ridiculous move. Another thing I was thinking about in this position was tactics where I could try to apply more pressure. Like, let's say he played a really random move, like knight d1. I could play h6, and let's say he wasted another move, king h2. Then I maybe, let's say a worse move than king h2, like rook b1. Then I could maybe take, and if he takes with the queen, of course, then I have this. Although in this case, he has f4. So maybe my calculation was just wasted because f4 shuts the whole idea down. But anyways, I thought if he didn't have f4, that would be winning. But if he takes with the pawn, my idea is go here, and if he wastes another move, maybe I can take here. With the idea that if he takes, I can go here. But even this doesn't look that good. Although it doesn't look bad. Anyways, I was going on some weird mental tangents. And this position is so non-possible. Nonsensical. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have even been thinking about it. Anyways. So he plays knight d1 though. And I play I do play h6. I played the game yesterday and I already forgot. Yeah, h6 is designed for, well, one, it gives my king left. Two, it guards the bishop on g5. If I ever take on e3. And it's just a general improving move. I didn't know how else to improve my position. Like, genuinely, like, how else do I improve my position? I really wanted to improve this knight on c6, but I couldn't figure out how. I would love to go, if he gave me two moves, like rook d8, and let's say he wasted a move like this, wasted here, I'm going to go knight e7. So then after knight b2, I go knight f5. So once again, this knight belonged on an f5, I feel like. And then I feel like it's just better placed there. But the issue is I don't have the e7 square for my knight, so my bishop's there. And yeah, I just didn't like the look of this. So I ended up going h6. I thought it was a good waiting move. He plays knight b2, which I thought was very interesting. And I decided to go a5. I thought this was a really good moment to do so. If he doesn't take my knight on c4, his knight's really awkward on the b4 square. And he has pieces on the king side that aren't really defending or attacking the queen side at all. And I have my pieces. So I think I'm better poised for a pawn break here. And if he does take, I could take with my queen or the knight. Probably the knight. I am threatening a fork. And after he takes, then I'm still threatening a fork. So I felt this position was very good, to say the least. And also this a3 pawn is very weak as well, and I'm probably going to win that. And I have a protected pass pawn. So that's what I like about this position. And after a4, he doesn't take my a pawn. Sorry, after a5, he doesn't take my a pawn. But he does take on c4. And I take with the c pawn. I don't take with this pawn because of d5. Just going to attack on my queen, and I'm going to lose the game. I'm going to take with the c pawn, or I take with the b pawn. Gosh, take with the b pawn. He plays knight d2, and now I take on b4, and he takes on c4. So instant rewind. I was so shocked by knight d2. I was so shocked. I was like, what? And I completely miss his idea. Like, I completely miss it. The idea is he wants to sacrifice his knight, and after pawn takes, he has to just go attack on my queen. That's his idea. So I completely miss it, and I just take on b4. Because that's just a free pawn. Like, I could take with the queen, I could take with the knight, probably the knight. And then if rook pins, I can just step out of the pin. Maybe queen c6. And then I'm going to go knight d3 next, put a rook on the open file, and I'm just going to win this game. But yeah, he takes on c4 with his knight. And it's winning, except it's completely losing. Queen b5. I got lucky. Like, I cannot miss a move like knight takes c4. Like, I guess theoretically, even if I didn't have this tactic and I went like queen b1, I'm not worse. It's just equal material. But that being said, I shouldn't miss tactics like that. I shouldn't have missed knight takes c4. But who knows? Maybe if it did actually work, my spidey sense would have tingled. In this case, my spidey sense didn't tingle until after I took on b4. But I played queen b5. It's very important to not play queen a6. And the idea, of course, is that the queen is pinning the knight to the white queen. And if you know anything about knights, if you have a piece that's 2 diagonal squares away from the knight, it's impossible for the knight to defend the square. It's going to take the knight 4 moves. Like, a piece 2 diagonal squares away from a knight takes so long. It takes 4 moves to get to that square for the knight. Well, what that means is this is a very strong pin. A very, very strong pin. And there's no way out of it. But anyways, the point is, I think it's very important not to play queen a6 first because of pawn takes, discovered attack on the queen. And after queen a5, I thought there was something. Is there not something in this position? For some reason, I thought there was a follow-up for white, but there isn't. So maybe that's just as winning. But I decided to go queen b5 first, allowing a4, and then go queen a6. In this case, I still maintain my b pawn. So this is probably better, going queen b5 first and then queen a6. And yeah, there's no way for him to save his knight. I'm just pinning it, and I'm going to take it back with the pawn next. And I'm sidestepping the discovered attack. So queen b5, queen a6 was a good maneuver. He goes queen g4. So he decides he's going to go guns blazing. Might as well, right? Because he's going to lose his knight. And look at this, man. I got 2 passed pawns, and they're just rolling down the board. He takes on h6. I just play, and like there's no possible way for me to defend this g-pawn. If my rook was already on d8, then I could play bishop f8. But in this case, I don't have any options. I have to play g6, giving up my rook on f8. So count the material. I'm down a pawn for an exchange. But I have 2 connected passers. And this a pawn is potentially weak. He plays h4. I play knight a5. Threatening a fork. And now my queen is guarding laterally. So one idea is after h5, I play king h7, takes, takes, and this queen guards on e6. That's one of the ideas. I'm not sure what I would have played if he played h6. I assume king h7. King h7 makes a lot of sense. Maybe king g7 makes just as much sense. Because if h6, now I'm going to win this pawn. But I'm not 100% sure what's the best moves. That being said, I don't think knight a5 was the best move. I think b3 might have been better. Because now I'm threatening a fork with the pawns, which is even better than threatening a fork with a knight. And he probably would have had to commit a rook to b1. And then I could play knight b3. And now I'm targeting the d3 square. I can maybe go rotate my knight back to d5. The a4 pawn is hanging. So I do think b3 was a really good threat, because if h5, I could just play b2. And after pawn takes, I can take with check. And now I'm just up a rook. Well, I'm not up a rook. I guess I'm up a bishop and a knight. And I think this is probably a good way to play. Like he could take like this, and I go here. Although maybe this is too drawish. He has 2 connected passes of his own as well. So maybe this wasn't good. I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe after h5. And maybe I go b2. There's got to be a better way to play. Maybe knight a5 now? There's a pawn takes, queen takes, and now my e6 pawn isn't dropping, so he doesn't have 2 connected passers. And if you play d5, I can take and this rook isn't hanging because of the queen on a6. So what it should be winning is my point. Anyways, I end up playing knight a5, and at this point, after move 27, I have about 13 minutes, and he has about 10 minutes. He plays rook a b1 to get out of the fork. I play knight b3. He plays rook d1, and I know he wants to play d5 because that's the most active move. He wants to open the file for the rook, or try to push his pawn all the way to d8 and promote. And I allow him to do that. This is probably one of the most craziest things I've done. Like, there was absolutely no need for me to do this. Really, I think I should have played knight queen c6. Defend against d5. So if d5, I just take. And now I have 3 passers. And my rook is defended on c8. And this pawn on a4 is still hanging if I ever need it. And maybe I can rotate my knight back at some point. Maybe not now, but maybe now. After he makes a move. I think I should have played a slower move, but instead I take on a4, which is a wild decision because I allowed d5. And my idea behind that was like, okay, if I take, of course my rook's hanging. That's bad. So I'm just going to play knight c5. And I blitzed it out like very quickly, but I gave up my c4 pawn. And I was like, oh no, man. I was like, no, I screwed it up. I do have a knight and a bishop for a rook, but all of the pawns are trading off. But more importantly, I probably need to think about how to survive. Like, I was legitimately thinking about how do I survive this. My first thought was to take on d5, and after rook takes, my knight, this pawn is hanging. So I could go rook b8 to defend the pawn. And after rook takes, queen takes, I go queen a2. I don't want to go b3 because queen c7 looks annoying. So I decided I'm going to go queen a2. And then he could take. And then I was thinking about, okay, maybe I can go check. And after I takes, and queen takes with check. And I was like, wait a second. This is not good at all. This is not good at all. So, but that was one of my first gut reactions. I think that's a draw if that happened. But this is obviously not that good. And I was like, you know what? I just need to play for a win here. I'm not going to take the pawn on d5. I'm going to play rook b8 to defend my pawn. Allow him to go d6, blocking in my bishop, so my knight on c5 is hanging. I'm going to go back to d7, because after queen c7, everything's defended. My knight's guarded by my queen, my rook's guarded by my knights, and my pawn is defended by both my rook and my queen. So everything is guarded. He has no threats. Now I go queen b5. And I thought what he had to do was go rook d4. I thought this was what he needed to do to try to win this pawn like this. And like, for example, let's say I play a random move. Then he could take. And the idea is that, like, my queen is doing too much. In this case, like, I would lose a knight on d7, for example. So I thought I'd go rook d4 to attack my pawn. I'm not sure what he didn't like about it. Well, he didn't like something, I guess. Maybe in this case I can go b3. And now he cannot go rook d3 because I can take it. But instead of that, he goes rook b3, which was very shocking to me. But it was an interesting idea. His idea is that after I attack his queen, and he goes queen c8, I take his pawn, but now he plays h5. Super aggressive stuff. If I take, I'm just losing. So right now, he's trying to corral his pawn down the board. Like, right now I have 1, 2, 3 defenders of the d7 square, and he has 1, 2 defenders of the d7 square, or 2 attackers on the square, whatever you want to call it. So if I lose one of my defenders of the square, he can push it through. which is an issue for me. So he plays h5 with the idea that if I take, he's gonna go rook g3 check, and if I move my king, he takes my bishop, and if I block with a knight, he gets his pawn through. An absolute madman. An absolute madman. A really creative idea. Like, very, very creative. But I shut the game down. I played queen d7. And when I say shut it down, I mean it's not like it's really shut down. He could play queen c2. But he didn't do that. He didn't play queen c2. I thought he had to keep the queens on. That's the best way to maintain pressure. But I'm not sure what he didn't like. He didn't like something. I'm not sure what it was. I think he just felt like he was going to lose his pawn, which I think he is. I could maybe take it now. Maybe. A huge maybe. If he tries to attack my bishop again, I might be able to play, honestly, maybe knight c5. Knight c4. Maybe knight c4. Then queen h6 gets a little bit annoying, but maybe it's fine. And knight c4 looks very scary. Maybe I go rook b6. Once again, though, queen h6 looks really annoying. And I'm still in a pin, which is not fun. I don't think I would have taken the pawn back immediately with the, but maybe I would have. Alternatively, I could also just take the h5 pawn. And after rook g3 check, I can go knight g6. I think this is also a fine way to play. Not 100% sure though. But after queen e7, he doesn't go queen c2, he just takes my queen. But the idea is that now he takes on g6, I take back, and there's no way I'm going to hang on to this pawn. Which is super important, because if I don't hold on to this b4 pawn, this is just a draw. I have a bishop and a knight for a rook, but it's not enough. And sure enough, I go king f7. He takes. I take. I win his d6 pawn, but it's not enough. That being said, I still have to try. I have to try my best. And around this part, I stopped notating. Actually, I stopped notating like 6 moves ago. So all of this is from memory. I'll tell you at the point where I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember what happened here. He played f3. A crazy move. That is bad. So the idea is he wants to bring his king closer in the center, but the thing is, his dark squares are weak now. And I just go bishop g3. And how are you going to get this king in the game? Well, he tries. He goes king f1. I go king d6. He goes king e2, but now I bring my knight in. The idea is I allow him to go rook g7, and there's literally no way for me to defend this pawn. And if I lose this pawn, it's definitely a draw. It's definitely a draw. The one thing that I have to keep in mind in this endgame is that if I lose one of these pawns, then at the very minimum, even if I win his 2 pawns, he can sacrifice his rook for my remaining pawn, and I'm going to be forced to do the knight and bishop checkmate. Like, this is a real possibility. This is a real possibility. It is not, like, that can happen. But in this case, I allow him to take my g pawn because he can't take it. And I'm just going to fork him. And this is what I'm saying. Like, for example, like, if he took and, like, if he's able to trade off one of my pawns for his pawns, then, like, I do the knight and bishop checkmate. Freaking crazy. Anyways. But he sees that I can fork him. So he goes king g3. But I can still fork him. So I just go king e5 because he still can't take. And he goes king d2. I go knight f4. And my knight beautifully defends my pawns. And more importantly, my bishop and knight. Look at this, man. He plays king d1, and I play king f6, defending my king, but defending my pawn with my king. And after his rook moves, I take on g2. He gives a check. I go king g5, and I go knight f4 again to defend my e6 pawn, and I go bishop f2. And this is the moment. This is the moment where I think this is actually crazy. His king is completely blocked out. My knight perfectly defends my pawns. And my bishop and knight completely block out the king. Like, the bishop covers the dark squares. The knight covers the light squares. It's an L shape. The king is blocked out in an L-shaped maneuver. Well, more like this. Like, look at that wall. Like, he literally can't get past this wall that the bishop and knight makes. This is actually so cool. It's beautiful. So after bishop f2... Okay, wait. He might have played rook a8 and then bishop f2. That might have been the way to do it. Around this point is where my notation is off. I know this position happens. Like with my pieces, I just don't remember where his rook is. It's really hard to remember that. But basically what happens, I eventually win this f3 pawn. And I slowly push my pawns up the board and I win the game. He sacrifices his rook eventually to try to get stalemate. I don't fall for it. And that's that. So let me try to figure out the position. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out the final position. But probably somewhere around here. Somewhere around here was the last actual move of the game. Is the last known position in the game, I should say. So with that being said, I'm going to hit the game review, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Alright, I got to give my reaction to this. What in the world? So, apparently, bishop g3 is not a good move. Bishop c5 check is better. Why? Because of king h2. Bishop b6. Yo, that's crazy! Knight c5 was better, so I can maintain this pawn. That makes a lot of sense. I should have been able to figure that out. Rook a1 was the better move for him. Rook a1. With the idea that if I go here, go rook a7 and get his pawn through, and I'm gonna lose a piece back. And it's supposed to be equal for some reason. I guess he's gonna sacrifice. I don't know. How is this equal? Instead of queen takes a4, c3, I calculated c3. I just thought rook takes here, rook c1, and queen takes. What's the point? Queen f3. Bishop h6. Oh my gosh. I didn't think about that. Yeah, my bishop gets out. Oh man, why didn't I play c3? I thought about it, but I just didn't see I didn't see it that my bishop activated like that. Yeah, oh my gosh, that was so bad. E takes d5 is better. How? How is that better? Queen a8. And if rook takes pawn, knight a6. Discovered attack on the queen, attacking the rook. Wow. Queen a8 is an awesome move. That is a freaking awesome move. a6 was inaccurate. Apparently, knight takes e5, pawn takes, and rook takes. That was not hard to see. That was not hard to see. And if bishop takes a7, then queen a8. Once again, we're back at it with queen a8. Because if bishop back, then we win this pawn.